Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash, for giving us the understanding of the Holy Bible through your men, beginning with the apostles and the bishops of Great Millstone. These are the men that are worthy of double honors in the time that we're living in, which we're living at the very end of the world. World in the sense of the Greek word eon, which means an age or a time period, a rulership. And we're living at the end of Esau's world, Esau's age, Esau being the so-called white man. And that's according to Matthew 24, verse 3. You've also got 2 Ezra 6 and verse 9, where it says, Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Jacob referring to our people, the Israelites, which are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Now, here in this lesson, I want to bring out some very important information concerning you so-called Nigerians. So-called because you're not Nigerian, okay? Which the word Nigeria or Nigerian goes back to nigger, all right? Nigger area. You can look it up yourself. I've done a lesson on it in which you're not niggers, you're not Negro. You know, we're not black people. Our pigmentation is brown. Our hair is black. And by the way, you know, this is a label that was put upon our people by our enemy, the so-called white man, Esau Edom. Okay, he labeled our people niggers, black people, Nigerians as an insult. Okay, which goes back to the curses. You can read about that in Deuteronomy 28 and verse 37. It speaks about how we would become an astonishment and a byword. A byword is an insult, okay? A word that you would use to insult people. And, you know, that's exactly what black is. To call our people black is an insult because black represents darkness. It represents ignorance, which black is not even a color. You know, black represents darkness. You know, it's actually absent of light. And I'll be the first to say that our people collectively are ignorant. But as a people, you know, our Lord didn't create us to be ignorant. You know, we're the children of light. Okay. Referring to us having the knowledge of the scriptures. Israelite is our nationality, being that we're the descendants of Israel. Hebrew, that's our language, and the Bible is our constitution, which contains the laws, statutes, and commandments, and the wisdom and knowledge of Yahweh Bahashem Shai, who you ignorantly refer to as God and Jesus Christ. Anyway, like I said in the beginning, I want to bring out some very important information that was just revealed to me in the Spirit, by the Spirit. Okay, for those of you that can receive it. And it's concerning you so-called Nigerians, which are Israelites. You know, which the reason I say that is because you have a lot of people that are still ignorant to the fact that you have, you know, Israelites out there on the west coast of Africa, especially out there in Nigeria, which is, you know, absurd to me that, you know, Jake would be that ignorant, but it is what it is. You know, and I'm referring to the ISUPK, but that's them. Anyway, I want to bring out some information concerning you so-called Nigerians and how you have a lot of Levites among the Yoruba tribe. Okay. Now, let me say this first and foremost. Levi, which is one tribe out of the 12 tribes of Israel, are who you would call today Haitians. Okay, that's where the Levites were taken to during the transatlantic slave trade, pursuant to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 68. And they were taken from places like Nigeria, Cameroon, Benin. You know, they were taken on cargo slave ships, and they were taken to the island of Hispaniola to serve slavery, hardcore slavery, alongside their brother Simeon on that same island, which you read about that when you go to the book of Genesis. I believe that's Genesis 49. I forget the verse. But it speaks about how Levi and Simeon, so-called Haitians and so-called Dominicans today, are brethren. Okay, and they share that island together, which is spiritual. Now, just like all the other tribes, our people are scattered throughout the earth, throughout the world. And that's according to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64. And what was just revealed to me in the spirit is that you have a lot of Israelites, a lot of Levites among the Yoruba people, the Yoruba tribe, okay, out there on the southwest coast of Nigeria. Now I'm going to use this individual that you see here on the screen as a prime example of what I'm talking about, which is spiritual, because tonight, or I should say early this morning, I've just been meditating, recollecting, thinking about my childhood, growing up in the inner city of London in a typical British Nigerian household, which me myself, I'm of so-called Nigerian descent, all right? Both of my parents are of the Yoruba tribe. My father is Yoruba, although, he was born and raised in London, England, like me. So on paper, he's just as British as me. But nonetheless, my people, out there in London, my family, that is, they're so-called Nigerian, and they're of Yoruba stock. Now, I'm not going to go as far as saying that the Yoruba tribe are Levi as a whole, okay, because I don't know that to be a fact. Me personally, I feel like the Yoruba are either Judah or Benjamin, with a sprinkling of Levi among them. But again, I speak as a man, and as is written in Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9 and 16, I believe that is, hardly do we guess aright upon the things that are on the earth, roughly paraphrasing. So, I speak as a man. But what I do know as a fact is that both the Yoruba and the Igbo out there in Nigeria are Israelites. Okay, they're Jake inside out, predominantly. I know that to be a fact. And those were the two main tribes that were enslaved out here in North America, throughout the Americas in general, but in particular North America, throughout the so-called West Indies, and even further down in South America, like Brazil. Anyway, the individual that you see here on the screen is a family friend of my parents from back in the day that I grew up with, in which I would call him an uncle. And it's very spiritual because as I was thinking about my childhood, and my parents' friends and whatnot, this man that you see here stood out to me because he was like a priest. He was like a priest among my family, family, friends and whatnot. He was the go-to guy when it came to prayers, night vigils, fasting and things of that nature. And as I was thinking about him and his surname, to be exact, that's when the light went off in my mind that, wow, he's a Levite. Okay, because as you can see, He goes by the title Pastor Henry Lowenson. Okay, which Lowenson is somewhat of a prevalent surname among the Yoruba people, as I'm going to show you. And Lowenson really goes back to the Lashawan Kodash, all right, the ancient Hebrew ban lawyer. Okay, as I'm going to show you, as we all should know by now, son in the ancient Hebrew is ban, and Levi in the ancient Hebrew is lawyer. Okay, as you see, that's what I've outlined here on this screenshot. So you've got son again, ban, and then you have Lawan or Lawa, which goes back to Levi. And this is only for the elect, right? The information I'm bringing out is only for you spiritual brothers and sisters out there, that are seeking the truth of who we are. Okay, it's for the spiritual mind, as the Apostle Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 2. We're to compare spiritual things with spiritual. Okay, this is not for the natural man or the gainsayer or the scoffer. Anyway, let's go to the scriptures. Let's go to Levi. Let's just type in Levi. Let's go to Genesis 29 and 34 concerning the birth of Levi. All right. The son of Jacob and Leah. We'll start at verse, let me see. Let's start at verse 32. And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, which is Ra'awaban in the ancient Hebrew. Reuben is referring to you so-called Seminole Indians. Okay. The Reubenites. For she said, surely the Lord, whose name is Yahweh, have looked upon my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bare a son and said, because the Lord Yahweh have heard that I was hated, he have therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. Simeon would be you so-called Dominicans, the people of Dominican Republic. That's who the Simeonites are today. Reading on, and she conceived again and bare a son and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi. Okay, which means to be joined or joined. As a matter of fact, let's look up the name Levi here in the Hebrew. Yeah, it means joined to. And we know that the Heavenly Father Yahweh separated Levi, or the Levites, as a tribe, to serve him, to be the priestly tribe amongst the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. They were the lawgivers, if you will. Beginning with Moses, Marshal, the lawgiver on the behalf of Yahweh, trickling down onto his brother Aaron and his sons, okay, the Aaronites. But if we go to the etymology here of the name Levi, it's Lawa, which means to join, be joined. La, wa. Okay, as you see here, you've got the Hebrew character La, and then you have the wa and the ha. La wa, la wa. And that's exactly what you have here. Lawa or Lawan son, which basically means son of Levi, as I'm going to show you. I've got the etymology here on Google. I typed in Lawanson etymology. The surname Lawanson likely derives from the common practice of patronymic naming, meaning it signifies son of Lawan or descendant of Lawan, Lawan being Levi, or pronounced in the Lashawan Kodash, lawyer. Okay, so I'm here to let you know that, you so-called Nigerians out there that bear this name, Lawanson, you're the descendants of Levi. Okay, make no mistake about it, you're the descendants of Levi. I pulled up this here Lawanson name on Google and it brought me to this website, Lawanson name. Okay, this name Lawanson is most prevalent in Nigeria. Approximately 1,867 people bear this surname. Okay, and why is that? Because you have a lot of Jakes out there in Nigeria. All right, this whole region on the west coast of Africa is predominantly Israelites, okay, Israelite tribes, especially out there in Nigeria. And I've done, lessons on how you've got Israelites out there in Nigeria. So you can go to my channel and look that up. But anyway, as you see here, you've got Nigeria at the top concerning people that bear that surname, Lawanson. Okay. Then you've got England after that. You've got the United States after that. People in Ghana, Canada, Scotland, Benin, Cameroon, France, and even Iceland. So, it's all spiritual, man. You have a lot of Levites, like I said, out there in Nigeria amongst the Yoruba people. And this is proof of that. This surname is proof that you have Levites out there in Nigeria amongst the Yoruba people, to be exact. Let me see what else I typed in. I typed in Lawanson Nigerian name. Lawanson is a Nigerian name, specifically a surname of Yoruba origin, and it is most commonly found among the Yoruba people. The name Lawanson is a surname, meaning it's a name passed down through families rather than a given name. So, Ban Lawyer or Lawanson, as the Yoruba people would say it, this is a name that has been passed down through generations, through the families. It's a generational thing, which is spiritual. Very, very spiritual, man. You've got this example here. Yinka Lawanson, known by his stage name Lamborghini, is a Nigerian Afro dancehall musician. He's a YouTuber and humanitarian. So I guess this is a Jake out there in Nigeria, an artist of sort that's doing his thing. So you can look him up in your own time. He goes by the alias Lamborghini, but his name is Yinka Lawanson. Okay, so that's interesting. But yeah, man, this is something that just hit me in the spirit early this morning. It's around 2:22 a.m. That I received this revelation So all praises to Yahweh Shema Shai for that. Okay. For giving us more understanding on who our people are. So that's all I've got, through the Spirit. I just want to bring this information out concerning how you have Levi among the Yoruba people, the Yoruba tribe out there in Nigeria. Like I said, we know that Levi is, predominantly out there in Haiti. But even among the Haitians, you had a lot of Yoruba, that were being taken from Nigeria to Haiti. So this makes a lot of sense, through the Spirit, if you can receive it. Anyway, I pray and hope that you brothers and sisters out there were edified. And until next time, I'll say Shalom.